So we have some good news on inflation. And according to experts, this is actually going to happen sooner rather than expected. But I want to address what's going on here because honestly, when it comes to inflation, everybody's been looking at the headline numbers. And these things are looking somewhat decent. But here's what you need to understand. The headline numbers have gone from 9% back in June 2022 to now sitting at 4%. That's a major shift. But there are other things that mean good news on inflation as well. And these major moves are going to impact every single one of us. And I want to address what's going on here. And I will in just a moment. All I ask is if you like these up-to-date news reports on inflation and the U.S. economy, please go ahead, do me a favor, go ahead, hit that like button, and let's begin with the good news on inflation. Now, here's what has happened. Over the past few months, we've seen some things have been insane, especially when it comes to year-over-year inflation numbers. Certain things that we were expecting were going to just drop in price and come down, be much more affordable. Well, they're spiking and we're seeing a surge. Other things that we were pretty sure were going to spike have actually flatlined or gone negative. That's good news. Right? We've seen airline fares. They've dropped significantly. Some food prices have begun to stabilize. Gas prices, however, are going back up, and wages are continuing to increase as well. All these things are things that we must look at. But experts say there's two big issues, two big dominoes that could be falling very soon. So, perhaps the two biggest things that are still in question when it comes to inflation are housing and the student loan crisis. These two things. Now, housing starts have increased by the most in more than 3 decades. In fact, there's been 291,000 unit increases in starts, which is the most since January of 1990. This 21.7% rise is the largest percentage gain since October of 2016. This is something that nobody expected. And you're probably thinking, well, this means that we're going to have more houses, we're going to see inflation go up. Well, not necessarily. Because listen to this. This fact alone, the housing starts, okay? This alone means there's going to be more housing, which more housing means more competition. And with more competition, we're going to see home prices begin to fall. But again, these are housing starts. This does not mean the houses are going to become available in the next week or a month. No, some of these could take 6 months to 2 years. These are just housing starts. Now, shelter, when it comes to the CPI report, currently weighs very heavily because it is actually weighed in more than a third of the entire CPI report. So, if headline, and this again, this is headline inflation, right? These are the numbers that we're going to see, headline and core. We're expecting housing to tumble within the next 6 months. Within the next 6 months. So it's June 20th today. So pretty much by Christmas time, we are going to see housing take a tumble. That's what experts are predicting. But again, this is good news for inflation because this would mean that CPI number would come down. The bad news for people that are collecting Social Security benefits, your cost of living adjustment is likely going to decrease as well. But wait, there's something else that's going to happen as well, and it's actually going to happen much sooner. And this is what I want to really address, because this right here is going to take a massive toll on inflation. And this is the student loan payments and the interest. Both of these things are going to restart. Keep in mind, the student loan payment pause, this has been in place since March 20th of 2020, or March of 2020, right? The middle of March, I believe. We've also seen interest payments. Again, this has been paused since March of 2020. Guess what? These are coming back. According to experts, they say right now the average student loan payment is a little more than $400 a month. And this will take a massive bite out of the average consumer's budget, meaning they will not have the money available to go and spend on other things like vacations, new cars, right? Some will not even be able to go and buy a house they've been renting for this entire time. They won't even be able to afford to buy a house. Maybe they can't pay off their credit cards anymore because they have a new $400 payment that is going to restart. But according to experts, they say once these two giant dominoes fall, inflation will come tumbling down right alongside of it, which would ultimately be good news for those that are currently struggling to keep up with consistently rising prices. That's the struggle. And so what we're hearing right now is this is good news. This is good news because if we can see the peak of inflation and we can see the numbers start coming down, which I think we have, okay? I don't think we're getting up to 9%. Not for a long time. I think we're going to keep coming down. We may see it tick back up eventually, but ultimately I do think it's going to come down. Now here's the thing. How long is it going to take? And as it starts to come down, guess what else happens? The Federal Reserve, they'll come back and they'll be like, okay, we did our job. We brought inflation down. Now it's at that 2 to 3% range. We're happy with that. We're content. Let's go and lower interest rates. But again, that might not happen till the first part or second quarter of 2024. But just giving you an idea of when all this stuff should kick in. According to the Education Department, when it comes to student loan payments, the student loan payments will resume starting in October. That's what the Department of Education has already said multiple times just over the past week. However, they do say that just because the student loan payment restarts in October does not mean that's when interest restarts. Interest will actually start accruing much sooner than that, potentially in August or September. So we'll see what happens there. But what all this means is this likely means every single person that has not made a student loan payment in the past 3 years is likely going to be strapped for cash, simply because when you add up all this relief that they've received over the past 3 years, it comes up to a little bit more than $15,000 in just 3 years' time. So again, that's a major, major boost. But this is why this is good news for inflation, because if the U.S. consumers are now struggling to just make payments, can't keep up with their credit cards, can't keep up with their student loans, can't keep up with rents, guess what? The economy is going to struggle. And as the economy struggles, inflation goes down. Now, even though this is good news for inflation, this does not mean this is great news for the U.S. economy. That's the reason why I say this is actually coming sooner than expected, because if we actually saw this in the first or second quarter of 2024, that would likely kind of time up with when the Federal Reserve thinks they could lower interest rates. And that would be a huge boost to the U.S. consumers as well. So as we get more information as to what is going on here, how this is going to impact you and your wallet and the U.S. economy, I promise I will come back. I will fill you in on all the latest news and updates. Again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing. I'll see you guys on the next one.